Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to everyone for this great committee meeting. With the weather warming up and schools about to let out, many American families will take to the road in the coming weeks to go on vacation and explore the beautiful sights our nation has to offer. Although this has many Americans taking time off from work, millions of Americans see the end of the school year and the rising temperatures as a sign that their work is about to significantly pick up. In 2017, domestic and international travelers spent over $1 trillion in the United States. According to the U.S. Travel Association, an impressive 83% of businesses in the travel and tourism industries are considered small businesses. 83%. And while small businesses are frequently the ones that take you from destination to destination or provide American families for a place to stay on the road, the economic impact of the travel and tourism industries positively impacts small businesses in other industries as well. For example, an estimated one of every $4 spent at restaurants in this country are due to travel and tourism. Small businesses in a variety of industries depend on travel and tourism to keep the lights on and pay their employees. The recently enacted Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which reduced tax rates and complexity for businesses of all sizes, has already positively impacted the travel and tourism industries. According to the Department of Labor, the travel industry created over 17,000 jobs just in the first 2 months of 2018, which is 50% higher than the amount of jobs created by the travel industry in the first 2 months of 2017. Equally important, tax reform has provided small business owners with the resources to hire new employees and reward existing employees in the form of bonuses or raises, as well as the opportunity to invest resources back into their businesses. This week is National Travel and Tourism Week. Thus, you are all here with us. Thank you for coming. We have put together a distinguished panel to discuss the economic impact of the travel and tourism industries and how the private sector and the public sector can work together to ensure the travel and tourism industries in the United States continue to thrive. I thank you all for being here this morning, and I yield to the ranking member for his opening remarks.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The travel and tourism sector plays a critical role in U.S. economy and is an indispensable part of the industry ecosystem which makes up the nation's economic fabric. In 2017, the tourism sector generated $2.4 trillion in economic output and supported 15.6 million American jobs in a plethora of industries. Tourism is also one of the few sectors operating a multi-billion trade surplus. Small businesses are an essential part of the travel and tourism section. Small companies in this sector are powerful job creators, providing livelihoods and pathways out of poverty for millions across gender, age, and skill levels. For instance, travel-dependent leisure and hospitality is the largest small business employer in the United States. Furthermore, research indicates that tourism has almost twice as many women employers as other sectors and employs young people as roughly twice the rate of other industries. Not only are small businesses companies of drivers of tourism travel, they also reap major benefits from the industry. The industry has grown significantly in the last 25 years, but when tourism stopped flocking to the United States, people flying and driving domestically, they also cease spending money at hotels, restaurants, and small merchants. The travel and tourism sector is one place where we can invest and get significant returns for entrepreneurs for the United States economy. Why are international travelers visiting the United States? There are numerous potential reasons why they are. But besides our immigration and visa policy, we must also invest in our national transportation infrastructure and park system. Without safe roads, bridges, rail, skies, few domestic trips will be made to the uniquely American park and historical sites. Promoting tourism is not only is good for our people, it's also foster business growth and social mobility. It encourages economic growth. I might add that I represent the city of Philadelphia, which includes Philadelphia Historical District, the birthplace of the nation and the first World Heritage City in the United States, as designated by the Organization of World Heritage Cities in 2015. As if you need more reason to visit the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, experiencing our growth and experience the small business and ecosystem. I look forward to today's hearing and thank the witnesses, and I yield back the balance of my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I didn't put a plug in for my own state. You beat me to the punch on that. That's pretty good.
Virginia, right?
Yeah, it's Virginia, that's right. No, that's coming. That's coming with our, we got it. I think you all probably know how the format works here. If committee members have an opening statement prepared, I ask that it be submitted for the record. I'd like to take a moment to explain the timing lights for you. You will each have 5 minutes to deliver your testimony, and then we'll go through a round of questions or two. The light will start out green. When you have 1 minute remaining, the light will turn yellow. Finally, at the end, the 5 minutes, it will turn red. It's usually an indicator that your time's coming close to an end. I ask you try to adhere to that limit. If you go a little over, that's fine today. And with that, we'll begin. I think I'll just introduce you one at a time, and we'll just go in the order of introduction, and your 5 minutes will begin as soon as I'm done with the introductions. Our first witness today is Ms. Rita Mcclenney, President and CEO of the Virginia Tourism Corporation. She oversees the agency's annual budget and staff, which is responsible for tourism promotion in the state of Virginia. Many of you may know the Virginia Tourism Corporation through its famous slogan, "Virginia is for lovers," which has been attracting tourists to Virginia for almost 50 years. And so thank you very much, Rita, for being with us today, and you may begin.
Chairman Bratt, Ranking Member Evans, and other subcommittee members. I'm pleased to testify before you today representing Virginia Tourism Corporation, as Mr. Chairman indicated, and we are delighted also to be here to share with you the importance of this industry. I'm also representing U.S. Travel today, which is a trade association representing all sectors of the national travel and tourism industry. And as you indicated, today is a part of National Tourism Week, so it makes today extra special. And in fact, this week was put into law with legislation signed by President Reagan 34 years ago. The mission of U.S. Travel is to increase travel to the U.S. and within the U.S., which also yields another $2.4 trillion in economic output annually and supports 1 in 9 American jobs and makes travel the nation's top service export. According to the Small Business Administration, the travel-dependent leisure and hospitality sector is the top small business employer. We're all on the same page here. You guys have indicated all these wonderful statistics. Some of our success in Virginia is legendary. Next year, our signature, Virginia's for Lovers, 50 years commemorating one of the most highly recognized tourism brands in the world. The famed Inn at Little Washington in the Blue Ridge foothills opened during the worst snowstorm of the decade in 1978, and now is one of the crown jewels of the lodging and dining scene nationally. Also nestled in an industrial neighborhood in Richmond, Virginia, Hardywood Craft Brewery has played a pivotal role in Virginia's boom of craft beer. As you well know, small businesses face recurring headwinds related to access to capital, attracting skilled employees, and overregulation that particularly impacts a small enterprise. Of particular interest to travel and tourism, small businesses is America's share of global travel. Unfortunately, America's share of the global travel market has been declining. In 2016, international arrivals to the U.S. declined 2.1%. In order to reverse this decline, we respectfully urge your support for 5 key areas. Gentlemen, full funding of Brand USA, infrastructure modernization, lifting the cap on the passenger facility charge user fee, protecting U.S. open skies agreements, conveying a clear message of welcome for international travelers to America. Brand USA was created to help market the U.S. in this booming global travel market. Just last week, Oxford Economics reported that since 2013, Brand USA's efforts are directly responsible for increasing international travel by an incremental 5.4 million travelers. Despite Brand USA's success, we were concerned to learn that the recent budget agreement diverted ESTA fees after 2020 away from Brand USA promotional opportunities. The return on investment from Brand USA is clear, especially for small businesses, and we hope you will join us in our work to sustain this critical work for Brand USA and the work of Brand USA. Without reliable infrastructure, small businesses could not operate, potential patrons will not visit. A key infrastructure barrier to the travel industry's growth and future competitiveness is the poor condition of our nation's airports. Last year, our 2 international airports in Virginia help facilitate the travel of 1 million international visitors who spent $1.7 billion during their travels. The passenger facility charge is an indispensable tool for local communities to maximize efficiency, reduce project cost, and ensure fiscal responsibility. Adjusting the PFC ceiling would allow each airport authority to tailor its own PFC rate to fit local needs. We think this is really important. Akin to our need to modernize our airport infrastructure, we must also preserve more than 120 open skies agreements, which have yielded hundreds of thousands of American travel and manufacturing jobs, billions of dollars in U.S. economic growth, and lower fares for travelers, a great benefit. We appreciate your leadership, Chairman Bratt, on fostering airline operations and competition. We appreciate all you do for your constituents in Virginia. And at U.S. Travel, our motto is simple. Without security, there can be no travel. America needs to convey a clear global message that while we aggressively pursue security, we still welcome overseas visitors to relax on our beaches and to close deals in our boardrooms. Finally, I'd like to extend to you an invitation to all members to please join us at the Visit USA Coalition meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m. in the Visitor Center. There we will discuss more and unveil a document to restore the declining U.S. share of the global travel market. We hope you can partner with us, with this subcommittee, and with this Congress to promote and advance America's travel and tourism industry. And it's a delight to be here with you today. Thank you.
Great, thank you, super. Our next witness is Mr. Steve Shore, President of Travel Tech in Arlington, Virginia. Travel Tech represents a variety of travel-related businesses, including short-term rental companies and travel search engines. Mr. Shore has over 20 years of experience in public affairs, and so thank you very much for being here with us this morning. We look forward to your testimony. Thank you, Mr. Shore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Bratt, Ranking Member Evans, and all members of the Chairman Bratt, Ranking Member Evans, members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, especially during National Travel and Tourism Week. I'm Steve Shore, President of Travel Tech. We're the trade association for online travel companies, short-term rental platforms, global distribution systems, and travel management companies. Now, decidedly, my members are not small businesses, but I recognize that today's committee hearing is about the impact of travel and tourism on small business. And each of our members has a great story to tell with regard to how their contribution to the travel and tourism ecosystem helps small businesses. Our membership is really divided into three categories: GDSs, online travel agents, and meta-search sites, and short-term rental platforms. And I'd like to just briefly address each of those categories and how they impact small businesses. I'll start with GDSs. Global distribution systems are truly the unsung heroes of the travel and tourism marketplace. They quite literally create the technology that allows consumers and travel agents to comparison shop. To demonstrate that, for example, there are over 700 commercial airlines in the world, each with their own routes, schedules, fares. The GDSs take that information and aggregate it and make it available to travel agencies so that when they're serving their clients or you're shopping for a flight on an online travel site, you're getting meaningful results in real time. These are technology titans that operate behind the scenes. Many people have not heard of some of these brands like Sabre, Amadeus, and Travelport, but you certainly have benefited from them if you've ever booked a flight via a travel agent, whether online or in the community. Speaking of travel agents, most travel agencies in the United States are small businesses and are powered by these GDS technologies. Travel agents utilize the services of the GDSs to serve their clients, to make sure that they have all the information they need to make an informed choice. In fact, 98% of small businesses are, 98% of travel agencies are small businesses. And Mr. Chairman, in Virginia, 70% of travel agencies have fewer than 5 people, and 95% of them employ fewer than 20. So truly small businesses that benefit from the great technology that these GDSs deploy. Now, without the GDS technology, these small business agents would have trouble servicing their clients. They might not know which flights are available on a particular route that their client needs, or they'd have to visit multiple websites or make phone calls to multiple airlines to figure it all out. So the GDS technology gives them the power and the opportunity to make their business thrive. And so we're quite proud of how our GDS members help the small business community, particularly travel agencies. Our online travel agent members and meta-search sites like Expedia and Priceline, Booking.com, TripAdvisor, Skyscanner help small businesses in a variety of ways, and I'd like to just talk briefly about how that happens. Particularly, online travel agents inspire people to travel. They actually, with their marketing, advertising, promotions, and deals, many of you probably are subscribing to their emails and you see the pictures of the beaches and the mountains. They're actually inspiring people to get off their couches and book trips. Further, they're able to provide consumers with package deals where they can save money. And the research shows that when consumers book trips via online travel agents, they tend to spend more money than those who choose to book elsewhere. And the reason for that is that likely they've saved money on their booking in the first place, and so they have more disposable income to spend when they're on the road. And oftentimes those expenditures benefit small businesses in the localities where they visit. The second way that online travel agents and meta-search sites benefit small businesses is really on behalf of independent hotels, small motels, independently owned properties. And in this dynamic, the small independent properties have to compete with the major brands that have huge marketing budgets. And just by being listed on an online travel site, that independent hotel, which may not have worldwide marketing recognition, gets to compete with the major hotel brands. And so they're benefiting these small independent hotels and small inns and bed and breakfasts by giving them the exposure. They're quite literally marketing those properties to the world. And so in that regard, our online travel agent members and meta-search members benefit those small businesses tremendously. Our short-term rental platforms, Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO, TripAdvisor Vacation Rentals, is relatively new environment. While vacation renting is nothing new, these platforms are new, and many people are taking advantage of the convenience and the access to short-term rentals that they've never had before. Not only do short-term rental visitors stay longer and spend more money benefiting communities, what's important to note about those travelers is they're often staying in areas that are not the traditional downtown tourist areas or convention center areas. They're benefiting small businesses and communities that traditionally have not seen economic benefit from travel and tourism. So they're expanding the circle of where travel and tourism dollars are being spread. Secondly, they've created an entire new industry of cleaning companies, property managers, and software companies that are helping homeowners manage the process of renting out their homes. In conclusion, while our members are not small businesses, we're certainly on the front lines with consumers. Our members benefit the travel and tourism ecosystem in a way that benefits small businesses beyond just stimulating more travel, but certainly giving them the tools that they need to thrive and grow. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Scheer. Very good. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Cam Brensinger, as founder and CEO of Nemo Equipment, a 23-employee outdoor equipment company based in Dover, New Hampshire. Mr. Brensinger started Nemo after completing a degree in industrial design from the Rhode Island School of Design, and so thank you for being here with us today and for sharing your story.
Chairman Bratt, Ranking Member Evans, and members of the committee, thank you for having me here today. I started my company when I was 25 years old and a senior at the Rhode Island School of Design, RISD, studying industrial design. I was also working part-time at MIT, funded by NASA to develop a better spacesuit for human exploration of Mars. New England taught me to love outdoor adventures. When I was a senior in high school in Manchester, New Hampshire, I got permission to spend a month hiking the toughest sections of the Appalachian Trail and write about it. At Middlebury College in Vermont, I ran the rock climbing club and led countless trips climbing, hiking, and cavings in the mountains of Vermont. When I graduated from Middlebury, my only definitive plan actually was to climb Denali in Alaska, which 3 friends and I undertook in 1998. My experiences in the outdoors and my passion for physics and art ultimately led me to discover industrial design, and I found myself going back to design school after college on a mission to start my own company. I incorporated my new company, Nemo Equipment, in April of 2002, and 3 days after graduation opened our first office in New Hampshire to be near the wonderful places that shape my passions. Today, Nemo has grown to a well-known, award-winning international gear brand with 24 employees, actually, as of Friday. Nemo products are sold in 19 countries around the world. with significant market share in the U.S., Japan, South Korea, and a growing presence in Europe. We own more than 50 pending and awarded patents and trademarks. We've been featured on the Discovery Channel, named by Time Magazine as among the best inventions of the year, and received international awards for product design. Our products are used by families for camping weekends, professional mountaineers attempting first ascents, and by the top echelon of American Special Operations Forces. I'm very proud to be here also as a board member of the Outdoor Industry Association. OA is the leading trade group for the outdoor industry, representing more than 1,300 member companies, including manufacturers, suppliers, retailers, guides, and outfitters. The outdoor industry represents a recreation economy that includes $887 billion in annual consumer spending, with 79% of that from trips, travel, and tourism. The outdoor recreation economy also supports 7.6 million American jobs. And according to a recent study by the Bureau of Economic Analysis, the outdoor industry represents 2% of GDP. The BEA study also demonstrates that the outdoor recreation economy is growing at 3.8%, 1% faster than the U.S. economy as a whole. According to OA's recently released congressional district level report, every community in every state in the country has a viable outdoor recreation economy. Chairman Bratt, constituents in your district spend almost $1.5 billion on recreation alone each year. Ranking Member Evans, your constituents spend nearly $900 million on recreation each year. Both districts are made up of consumers focusing on camping, trail sports, and fishing. These economies, like any, need infrastructure. As you know, the Land and Water Conservation Fund, LWCF, is due to expire at the end of this fiscal year. We ask Congress to please support reauthorization and full funding of LWCF, since maintaining our public lands is vital to the health of outdoor recreation, and LWCF benefits every county in the country. When people hear travel and tourism, they may not think of the complex global supply chains that bring to market the clothing and equipment that support travel. American businesses like mine provide coveted and high-paying jobs in engineering, design, marketing, advertising, financial, and sales that support adventure travel. Our American outdoor brands are some of the most innovative and revered in the world. Many of our industry's jobs in sewing and assembly have, since the 1990s, moved abroad in search of an available and willing labor force, which means companies like mine end up paying high tariffs to bring our finished goods back into the country. In fact, outdoor companies pay disproportionately high tariffs. While average inbound tariff is less than 3%, the average tariff on outdoor products is 14% and can be as high as 40%. Outdoor product manufacturers pay approximately $750 million annually in import taxes to the U.S. Treasury. Duty relief on outdoor products not manufactured domestically can help lower costs, fuel innovation, and get more Americans outdoors. We ask for your support of the U.S. Outdoor Act that allows for more innovation by American companies while protecting our industry's domestic manufacturers. Americans love the outdoors. Over half of all Americans enjoy outdoor activities every year, whether close to home or at faraway iconic places. The outdoor recreation economy is resilient and is growing faster than the economy as a whole. My business is just one example of thousands of companies that are creating highly desirable American jobs with access to healthy outdoor lifestyles and turning our shared love of being outside into a driving force in the U.S. economy. Thank you for the work that you do to support the people, places, and infrastructure that make outdoor adventure possible and allow it to be a major part of my life and a significant component of our country's heritage, identity, and economy. I hope this testimony will be of value to your committee.
It was. Thank you very much. Great testimony. I'd just like to recognize our chairman. My boss came in the room, Chairman Shabbat, down at the end there. Welcome him. And then at this point, I'd like to now yield to our ranking member, Dwight Evans, for the introduction of the final witness.
Good morning. It is with my pleasure to introduce Ms. Chaluti Panwana. I think I got that right.
Yes.
Okay. The president and CEO of Wealth Protection Strategies in Bensalem, which my colleague who serves on this committee who represents that district, Congressman Fitzpatrick. She has been the recipient of numerous industries and company awards, serves as the vice chairwoman of the Asian American Hotel Owner Association. She's a graduate of East Stroudsburg University in Pennsylvania, and she is testifying on behalf of the Asian American Hotel Owner Association, the largest hotel owners association in the world, nearly 18,000. That's extremely impressive. Again, you have the opportunity now to testify.
Thank you very much. Chairman Brett, Ranking Member Evans, and the members of the committee, it is an honor to appear before you today. My name is Jagruti Panwala. My family and I are small business owners from Pennsylvania. We are independent owners and operators of 5 hotels in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. I'm also a president and CEO of a financial planning company, and we help small business owners reach their development goals. I also serve as a vice chairwoman of Asian American Hotel Owner Association, which is AHOA. As you mentioned, AHOA represents 18,000 members, and our members own 1 out of every 2 hotels in the United States. We employ over 600,000 workers, accounting for nearly $10 billion in payroll annually. AHOA proudly serves on the board of directors of the U.S. Travel Association and as a member of the Visit U.S. Coalition, organizations that are leading the effort to expand travel and tourism within and to the United States. I am here to tell you about the state of America's wonderful travel industry, and it is fitting to have this discussion during National Travel and Tourism Week. Our industry drives economic expansion, job creation, and prosperity in the United States. The travel and tourism sector reaches nearly every corner of the country and is a top 10 industry in nearly every state. There are 4 metrics I like to highlight to illustrate the tremendous economic impact of our industry. In 2017, according to U.S. Travel Association, the travel and tourism accounted for $2.4 trillion in economic output and supported 15.6 million American jobs. American workers directly employed in the travel industry earn nearly $260 billion in wages, and the federal, state, and local government collected $165 billion in tax revenues from our industry. In the lodging sector, total U.S. room demand is higher than it has ever been before. The leading economic metrics for hoteliers, including occupancy, average daily rate, and revenue per available room, are expected to increase through 2018. For small business owners like me and the vast majority of our AHOA members, this is an amazing news. Small business account for 83% of companies in the industry, and we are seeing the benefits of a robust economy and thriving travel sector. Travel and tourism sector small businesses contribute to their communities by creating jobs, training employees, and reinvesting in capital locally. In fact, the #1 small business employer in the United States is the travel-dependent leisure and hospitality sector. 40% of workers who begin their career in travel ultimately achieve salaries over $100,000. In addition, our industry provides a tremendous foundation for employees with less formal education. And when they begin in their career in travel, achieve an average career salary of nearly $70,000, which is 5% higher than any other industry. While good things are happening now, there are, of course, some challenges. One of the biggest concerns we have is increasing in gas prices. Higher gas prices means higher costs, fewer travelers, and fewer trips. Another area we're watching closely is the trends of international travelers to the United States. These visitors spend nearly $4,500 and spend 18 nights per visit, amounting to hundreds of billions of dollars on travel and tourism. Recently, the Department of Commerce announced that their data in tracking international visitors may be wrong. I encourage that we follow this development to make sure the information we have is valuable so we as a business owner can make a sound decision. International visitors are critical for our national economy, our workforce, and our local communities. Consequently, I ask us to review 2 important programs. The first one is a Brand USA, and the second one is the Visa Waiver Program. Since 2013, Brand USA has encouraged millions of people to come to the United States, which has generated nearly $40 billion in revenues and supports over 50,000 American jobs. I am hopeful that it could be reauthorized in its current form with a strong bipartisan support like it has been in the past. The Visa Waiver Program is also important. It enables travelers to visit the United States without first obtaining a visa. The trips are limited and includes a security measures to protect against misuse by bad actors. I urge you and your colleagues to enhance and expand the Visa Waiver Program. Finally, the new tax law is important to small business owners. Small business confidence is growing, and we are creating new jobs. increasing wages, and expanding our businesses. To help ensure a thriving outlook for America's travel and tourism industry, please make sure the tax relief for small business is a permanent solution. In conclusion, Chairman Brett, Ranking Member Evans, and the members of the committee, I thank you for your time today and allowing me to share my story, and I wish you a happy National Travel and Tourism Week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, I think we'll open up to questions. That anyone have to leave? Anyone have pressing time constraints on them? Why don't you go ahead? Why don't you lead us off? Mr. Curtis, I'll yield to you for the first round of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Evans and this distinguished panel. Although I spent 8 years in Virginia and experienced many of the things you discussed, my district is in Utah. And many of you will know Utah for its amazing natural landmarks and world-renowned recreational activities. In my district, people travel from all over the world to Arches, to some of the greatest snow on earth. Just to make you a little bit jealous, from my home, within 60 minutes I can reach 12 ski resorts. Several years ago, I wanted to make a point and traveled 15 minutes from my home one direction and snow skied. On the same day, traveled 15 minutes the other direction and water skied. So I welcome you all to come to Utah and see what we've got there. This kind of travel and tourism significantly impacts our economy. Every year in my district, there's approximately $2 billion spent on outdoor recreation. We have 288 outdoor companies in my district. And because of this, it's important that we continue to support the state and local recreational economies, and I'm pleased to be part of this committee today and be here with you. Mr. Brensinger, you mentioned in your testimony the high import tariffs outdoor companies faced. I think you said as high as 40%, which caught my attention, and the urgent need for tariff relief. How does that impact your business, and how would lower tariffs help fuel innovation and specifically job growth?
Thank you very much, Representative, for the question. And I've spent quite a bit of time in Utah, twice a year for a long stretch for our retailer show, and many times personally to go to Zion and the incredible places in your state. So as far as tariffs go, our market is extremely competitive at this point. A lot of the big famous brands in our industry have grown into significant corporations and are seeking growth as they move into larger markets of recreation. And that makes a very price competitive landscape. So for us, we pay between 4.5% and 9% tariffs on our particular goods. As you mentioned, our industry in general pays as high as 20 or even 40% on footwear and apparel. I would like to assure you that a relief of tariffs would not end up in my pocket. It would result in us being able to invest more in R&D to make our products more price competitive in the market. There are so many forces at play today to be a successful business like ours. Every basis point of margin makes a big difference. And ultimately, outdoor equipment is expensive for the American consumer to purchase, and good equipment is really essential, as you know, to have great experiences in the outdoors. So I think if we want to grow outdoor recreation in general, lowering tariffs will translate into increasing participation.
And we can then assume job growth as well locally.
Yes, sir.
Can you touch just a little bit on the global supply chain impact on your industry and job growth as well?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so in my company, we have 24 employees that cover a range of jobs from design, engineering, marketing, customer service, operations, in the entire kind of global supply chain of our business, from the folks who produce the yarns and weave the textiles, all the way to the folks that sell the goods. Ultimately, Americans represent the best, highest paying, most innovation-focused jobs in that whole continuum. And so for us, I would say when I started the company, I actually really wanted to do our manufacturing in the U.S., partly for reasons of patriotism and partly for reasons of pragmatism. I wanted to be able to visit the factories and learn with them and be part of the development process. So for the first few years of Nemo, I spent a lot of time visiting with domestic sewing manufacturers. And ultimately, I did learn to sew from a couple cottage industry sewers in New Hampshire. But at the end of the day, the sewing industry had compressed so much over the decades since the 90s. I didn't see a viable path for our manufacturing in the States, and ultimately kind of tapped into the Pacific Rim supply chain for sewing, where really the best sewing factories are. And then a few years later, we met some Navy SEALs and developed a military component to our business, which, because of the Berry Amendment, caused us going searching again for domestic sewing. And to be honest with you, what I found in juxtaposing these two supply chains is sewing in the U.S. is about 80% the quality and twice the price. So the reality is, for us to be competitive in the market today, though we do all of the most value-adding jobs in the States as far as intellectual property and the creativity and innovation, the sewing per se really has to come from abroad.
Thank you. I'm out of time, but let me just end with the comment that it's been my experience that in Utah, your industry is overflowing with innovation, and it's pretty amazing and fun to watch. Also, it's been my experience that some of our most socially responsible companies are in your industry in my district, so thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. So I'll yield to our ranking member, Mr. Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Panama, I want to go to something you said about a challenge. And I sort of heard Mr. Benzinger say forces that affect this whole industry. So you seem like you're both saying the same. And you're talking about energy costs. And obviously today, the president's on the verge of nixing the Iran deal. And obviously that has huge implications. So talk to me a little bit about the energy and the issue from your perspective. You talked about gas costs. What kind of impact?
Yeah, so I'll give you my perspective, obviously, as just a business owner, and whenever there's a cost of anything which affects the travel, it affects the hospitality industry. So if the gas prices are rising, and people who are flying into to a local area or even going to Disney, it affects them. So I think as a business owner, our concern is that whenever there's a cost of travel, that it affects the tourism as it would, and that certainly is a concern. If the gas prices are increasing, then certainly the travel, domestic travel, which is almost 80% of what we depend on, is going to affect, besides international travel.
But the forces, I want to speak a little bit on that.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for the question. What I was referring to is it's a hyper-competitive marketplace today. And for brands like ours to be successful, we really have to be omni-channel businesses. We have to have an online component. We have to have specialty retailers. We have to have large specialty retailers. We have to do a lot of things well so we can be wherever the customer wants to find us. And that relates back to the tariff issue, in that it's difficult today. The way the world works, manufacturers can distribute products straight through major online retailers, some in particular, to the consumer in a way that is making being a high-end brand challenging. And so for us, it's difficult to maintain the margin that you need to grow at 35% per year, and tariff reduction would make a big difference in that.
Your testimony talked about Arab hubs and other short-term rental companies helping middle-class families get by, but a lot of reports have shown that Air hubs in particular is driving up housing prices and making it harder for families to make ends meet, which is right.
So the short-term rental industry, again, is not new. These platforms are new, and travelers are finding that short-term rental accommodations are more accessible than ever before. The claim that short-term rentals are impacting housing stock or housing prices is simply not the case. If you look at the total number of housing units in any particular city and compare that to the number of short-term rentals that are being offered in that market, it's usually a very, very, very small percentage of the total housing costs. One of the examples I like to point out is in San Francisco area, for example, which has notoriously high housing costs. Airbnb and the existence of these short-term rental platforms weren't the cause for high housing costs in San Francisco. It's been that way for a very long time. In fact, short-term rentals have enabled homeowners to earn a little extra income so that they can afford to stay in their homes. And so we believe that the short-term rental industry is providing great value and great benefit to these communities and not impacting housing stock or affordable housing in any way.
Ms. Mcclenney, can you speak to, particularly in your position, as you look at the 50 states, the issue about diversity and inclusion in the hospitality industry? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because tell you my background, many years I spent on the board in Philadelphia on the Convention and Visitors Board for many years. There was a person in Philadelphia by the name of Miss Young who used to run a convention center. So can you talk a little bit about the aspect of inclusion and diversity in the industry?
Yes, Congressman Evans, thank you. Tourism is America's best first job. So as Americans look for employment, the tourism industry is very diverse, has a wide range of opportunities in many industries that come as a part of this service industry, like technology, services to small business that have to do with transportation, that have to do with media production, planning, so every spectrum that one can imagine. And our colleges now have tourism programs. So we find that for a wide range of people, the tourism and hospitality industry provides an entry into employment. And from that, people are going on to get advanced degrees, they're going on to have very wonderful salaries and the opportunity to raise their families and live wherever in these 50 states in the United States that they choose to live, because tourism is located in every single state. And I'm happy to say that it is a growing industry. It is also an industry that rebounds quicker than others back to post-recession times. So it has a wide range of benefits, and it's a lot of fun.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You're back to balance my time.
Great, thank you, Dwight. I'd like to yield to my colleague from Pennsylvania, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to the panel. Ms. Panwala, good to see you from business-friendly Bensalem. Welcome to D.C. Mr. Scher, I want to expand on a question of my colleague Dwight Evans. Interested to hear about the impact that companies like Airbnb, like HomeAway, have on small business hotels, not on home prices, but on small business hotels, because it seems to me that the short-term rentals that are offered by these companies are in many ways very similar to hotels, and yet they're not subject to the same regulations, local regulations, federal ADA regulations. How is that not unfair competition?
Thank you for your question, Congressman. I'll start by setting the stage. So the hotels are experiencing the highest occupancy rates in history the past several years. What we're finding is that short-term rentals are inspiring people to travel more and travel more often, and sometimes that means they'll stay in a hotel, and sometimes that means they'll stay in a short-term rental. How short-term rental platforms are impacting small hotels, I would say they're impacting them very positively. Many small inns, bed and breakfasts are actually listing their properties on short-term rental platforms now because that's where consumers are choosing to shop. Regarding the regulatory environment for short-term rentals, it's our belief that if someone chooses to rent out their home, that it's still a private residence, and it's not a commercial entity that is subject to all the same conditions as a commercial building, namely a hotel. And therefore, as far as the negative impact on hotels, we don't believe that to be the case. I think that from a competitive standpoint, the hotels have tried to make more of that issue than actually exists because, so again, it's a private residence being made available to travelers. It's not a hotel at the end of the day.
it is not a hotel, but if one's subject to regulation and the other isn't, and yet they're essentially offering the same service, how is that not unfair competition?
Well, there's a couple of components to that. On the issue of taxation, we believe that short-term rentals are taxable, and that should be the responsibility of the homeowner, and they should pay the same occupancy tax that the hotels do. With regard to the regulatory environment, that's really up to the locality, and it's fundamentally a zoning and private property rights issue to determine if and how a municipality chooses to deem someone's home a commercial property. We don't believe that to be the case. A person's residence is typically in a residentially zoned area, not a commercial area. And so to apply commercial regulatory schemes to residences, we believe is not appropriate.
How about the ADA?
Well, again, I don't know if just by renting out your home, whether it's a beach house, a lake house, or a condo in the city, should require you to completely renovate your home to make it compliant with Americans with Disabilities Act, because again, it is a home, and the ADA typically doesn't apply to residences, and therefore, just because someone is staying in that home, whether they're paying for it or whether it's your relative, doesn't necessitate the need for ADA compliance.
One other question, Mr. Scher. Looking at my notes here, we met with our staff. It's my understanding that Expedia and Priceline, who control 95% or so of the market for online travel agencies, charge their highest rates to independent hotels. So is that true? You know, independent hotels who are not part of a chain and are often small businesses and family-owned businesses. We're being told that these companies charge these small businesses 15 to 30% more of each hotel room booked on their sites. Can you comment on that?
Well, I can't speak directly to the terms of the agreements between independent hotels and online travel sites, but what I can speak to is the great benefit that small properties get from being listed on an OTA. Cornell University did a study, commonly known as the billboard effect, and they found that just by being listed on an online travel site, a property, whether independent or a major brand, sees a 9% increase in direct bookings. What that means is people are shopping for rooms on online travel sites, then leaving the online travel site and going to book direct. So that exposure that a small independent property gets is invaluable in terms of their ability to compete with the major brands. And so I would suggest that, again, I don't know the terms of the agreements and whether the rates that the online travel sites have with the independent properties, but the benefit is absolutely tremendous. They're literally marketing those properties to the world where travelers typically wouldn't have heard of those properties when shopping for accommodations in a given market.
My time's expired. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Ryan. Yeah, I'd just like to, a lot of you mentioned international competition and the decline, the relative decline of the U.S. share globally, et cetera. And so if you could all just comment, we'll just start with Rita and work on down. If you could just all comment, I mean, when I started teaching economics 25 years ago, India and China, the average income per capita was $1,000. Right now it's growing through the roof. And so is that loss in share just due to the fact that they're getting online capabilities and they've got great sites and can market with us, and so our relative share is going down? Or is it more problematic, linked to infrastructure, something we're doing wrong, where we can make some inroads to compete better, or both of those, et cetera? Rita?
Mr. Chairman, it's a combination of factors. It's access to the skies with the Open Skies Agreement, the visa waiver program. What we would like the landscape to look like is greater access to smaller and regional airports for flights to come in, whether they be domestic carriers or foreign carriers. Also, in terms of the decline, it's a very competitive landscape. So an organization like Brand USA really has the opportunity to have a high impact on promoting travel in the United States. And a lot of countries have had advertising programs for a number of years. So we're really catching up, and we really are trying to stabilize that opportunity for every city, community, destination marketing organization around the country to have an equal access to market through a lot of the co-ops and a lot of, frankly, the buy downs that Brand USA's buying power gives them to have the ability to market themselves to international visitors.
I agree. There's a combination of factors. I think from a broad standpoint, our industry views this issue as what type of message are we sending the world in terms of America being a great place to visit and making sure that all the security boxes are checked and ensuring the traveling public globally that America is still open for business and a great place to visit with access to uncounted attractions and opportunities for visitors to come and enjoy this country. So it's about a global message and making sure that we're continuing to be vigilant on security, but ensuring that that the message is being sent to the rest of the world that America is still a great place to visit.
If you want, is this a kind of constant, gradual decline over a decade or two, or is it in recent years has there been a sharp drop off? If anyone know the answer to that one? I mean, what are we looking at time frame here?
I would say it's recent. Yeah, because up until 2016, we were increasing our inbound travel from international visitors.
What's the decline?
2.1%.
Percent
Yes.
decline
Yeah.
instead of, and what was the growth rate prior?
We were up in, I don't know the exact number, but it was closer to a 5% growth.
Growth rate that we were.
Yeah, that we were on a
Maintaining.
trajectory for, yes.
Right. All right.
So it's been a significant impact, as you can tell.
Yeah, Ms. Panwala, you want?
No, I would say same thing. I think it's a combination of multiple things, but I think perception outside the United States is that United States does not welcome a lot of visitors, which I think is a perception more than a reality. So I think if we change our perception outside the world would certainly, within the outside the United States would certainly help. But yeah, yeah.
Chairman, thank you for the question. I would say that I represent maybe a slightly different perspective, which is maybe a diamond in the rough there. I think outdoor participation in general has been steady. In some categories, it's growing. I think we shouldn't forget that we have incredible outdoor spaces in this country, which are tremendous assets and huge draws for tourism. In fact, we had 331 million people visit our national parks last year. I think that's an important reminder that we need to continue to invest in those spaces. And I noted that we have a $12 billion backlog right now in maintenance of our national parks. I think we should keep that in mind. Another thing I wanted to just very quickly point out is the interrelationship of gear to tourism, because I mentioned that we represent $887 billion of consumer spending. About $700 billion of that is trips, travel, and tourism. The balance of that, almost $200 billion, is around gear. And the good news is, as I mentioned earlier, our American brands are dominant in that global space.
Great, and open to anyone who knows the answer. Where's the decline been? Has it been in any region more pronounced than other regions, the drop-off? Any sectors more than others? From any regional area globally that the drop-off is recognizable? Where is the, so there's a 1 or 2% decline. Where is it focused here? Where's the decline coming from? Have we identified that?
Mr. Chairman, when travelers look at potential vacation sites, they're looking at the globe, really. So what we have seen is the increase in places like Canada, Saudi Arabia, Spain, Australia, up 20+%. So in a very competitive landscape, to get the traveling family's attention, it really is about where can I go that I feel welcomed? Where can we go because we're spending our precious family dollars and this precious time? People do not want to bring that stress or anxiety to a vacation experience. So we've seen a decline in inquiries. And initially, when this negative sentiment was happening, it didn't impact the actual travel. But now we see that it has impacted the actual transactional retail side of the business, where people are making decisions to go to other countries. And that's why it's so important that we remain competitive, that we keep our foot on the pedal through Brand USA, and through our airport accessibility to stay welcoming and friendly, to have wait times decreased through our Border Patrol, to have the latest and greatest technology so that people have, again, easy access. And it is a PR, it is an impression that people have, and it's something that we can turn around. It's doable. And I think that if we can just stay focused and we can, again, present ourselves in the most positive light, that people will return in droves. Like Virginia's for lovers.
That's right. and I just don't know the basic facts here, so that's kind of why I'm probing. Is this a decline of folks coming here, or a decline of folks coming here relative to us going there, or is it just an absolute decline in folks coming here from abroad?
It's a decline of international travelers from non-domestic, non-U.S. locations coming to the U.S.
Coming to
Yes.
US. Okay, great.
Yes.
Great. Dwight, did you have any? No, any follow-up? If I'll just close on this because this is a small business committee. If you had to give us one recommendation to try to incentivize small business to be more helpful, et cetera, in your industry, what would it be? And why don't we start at Ms. Palmwali? If I don't want to catch up, if anybody wants to zip in.
No, I would say the tax reform, what we're working on currently right now, continue capital access to small business owners, continue promoting travel and tourism, domestic and internationally, because like I said, the small business comprise of 83% of all the companies in the industry. So as much as you can help small businesses, they will always reinvest back into economy by creating more jobs, hiring more employees, and also reinvesting by building and purchasing more of the hotels. So as much as we can make it easier for small business owners to reinvest, that would be something that I would urge that be considered.
Thank you, Chairman. Pretty simple for us, two parts. One is we have no outdoor industry without public lands. So in general, supporting our beautiful outdoor spaces is paramount. Renewal of LWCF is the one of many concrete ways to do that. The other is, and this really hits home for me, is again the tariff relief issue through multilateral or bilateral trade agreements, MTBs, the GSP program, or individual pieces of legislation like the U.S. Outdoor Act. That allows us to give consumers the best value in outdoor gear and help support innovative businesses like my own.
I think the benefits of the travel and tourism economy on small businesses are clear. So I would suggest that anything that we can do to invest in our in our travel and tourism economy, whether it's Brand USA, whether it's airport infrastructure, national parks, all those things contribute to stimulating the travel and tourism economy, which is ultimately going to benefit small businesses across the country.
Mr. Chairman, we have multiple drivers that really move the needle. And really Brand USA is power-packed because it is the multiplier effect of those dollars that are collected, that are invested into campaigns, access to capital for small businesses, and job creation through small business is the creator of a travel economy. And that travel economy contributes so much to the USA.
Great. Thank you very much. Dwight, any grand slam? All right. Thank you all very much for being with us. Very informative. I learned a ton. Thank you for making the trip and sharing your testimony with us. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Whoop,
committee.
absolutely. What my staff is on. Ask unanimous consent that members have 5 legislative days to submit statements and supporting materials for the record. Pause for objection. Without objection, so ordered. You like that was humor if you didn't get that. Without objection, so ordered. This hearing is now adjourned. Thank you all very much. Super. Thank you. You bet.